Imagine getting a phone call at 3 in the morning. Not an emergency from family, not a friend in trouble, a tournament director, voice shaking, telling you that a tennis event with over 3 decades of history is about to collapse. That's exactly what happened to Rafael Nadal one night in Mallorca. And the reason behind that call is one of the most fascinating stories in tennis right now. Nadal picked up the phone expecting something routine, maybe a question about one of the young players he mentors, maybe a scheduling conflict. What he got instead was a full-blown crisis landing in his lap at 3 in the morning, and at the center of it was a 20-year-old girl from Manila named Alex. To understand why, you have to understand what Alex has done to this sport in a very short amount of time, because what she's been doing isn't normal. It isn't something that happens every few years. What she's been doing quietly and then all at once is rewriting the rules of how a tennis player connects with the world. And the sport itself is still scrambling to catch up. The Upper Austria Ladies Linz Open has been running since the late 80s. 35 years of tennis. 35 years of sponsors, crowds, traditions, and carefully built relationships with local media and partners. This was supposed to be their celebration year. The milestone edition. They had marquee names locked in, prize money bumped up by over $140,000 from the year before, and every reason to expect another successful week. Then the pre-sale numbers came back, and everything fell apart. Ticket sales were down more than 40% compared to the previous year. Sections of the arena that had never once gone unsold, the quarterfinals, the semis, the final itself were sitting half empty before a single ball had been struck. Tournament organizers weren't just nervous. They were staring at a financial loss serious enough to threaten whether the event could even continue. And when they sat down to figure out why, the answer kept coming back to the same name. Alex wasn't in the draw. That's it. That was the whole problem. She had lost in the 4th round of the Miami Open to Karolina Muchova, a brutal match that cost her enough ranking points to slide from 29th in the world down to 45th. On paper, it was just a ranking adjustment. In reality, it meant she missed the direct acceptance cutoff for Linz, and the moment her name disappeared from the entry list, something shifted. The fans who had been buying tickets, the ones who had flown into Melbourne, who had packed venues in Dubai, who had overwhelmed the Miami Open ticketing system to the point where it literally crashed, those fans simply didn't show up. They weren't coming for the tournament. They were coming for her. When sponsors got wind of the ticket numbers, the tone of every conversation changed almost overnight. These weren't brands that had stumbled into women's tennis without knowing what they were doing. They had been watching Alex for months. They had seen Dubai's numbers jump 48% when she was in the draw. They had read the merchandise reports from Miami, where her jersey outsold every other player in the entire field combined. They understood exactly what her presence at a tournament was worth, and they understood just as clearly what her absence was costing. The sponsor meeting that followed was supposed to be a standard review. It became something else entirely. When tournament officials explained the situation, that Alex's ranking had slipped and that under WTA rules, she simply didn't qualify for a spot in the main draw, the reaction from the room wasn't sympathetic. It was an ultimatum. Get her in. Those were the words. Get her in. We don't care how. Wild card, special exemption. Figure it out, because if she isn't playing, we aren't paying. 35 years of goodwill. 35 years of partnership. And it had come down to this. One player, one name. The WTA found itself in an uncomfortable position. The rules around wild cards exist for a reason. They're traditionally reserved for local wildcards, for young players still building their ranking, for cases where a tournament wants to give a homegrown talent a chance at the big stage. Handing one to a player ranked 45th in the world because sponsors demanded it. That wasn't in any rule book. Inside the WTA, there were real arguments on both sides. Some officials held the line and said rules are rules. that allowing exceptions based on commercial pressure sets a dangerous precedent and undermines the entire structure the sport is built on. Others pushed back and said the rules exist to serve the game, not the other way around. And if the game is suffering because the rules are blocking its most compelling personality from competing, then something has to give. One anonymous official put it simply, Alex isn't just a tennis player. She's a phenomenon, and if the rules are standing in the way of the sport thriving, maybe the rules need to catch up. That sentence alone tells you everything about where women's tennis is right now. It's in the middle of a genuine reckoning, a collision between a system designed around performance metrics and a reality where a 20-year-old from the Philippines is drawing the kind of attention that rankings were never built to measure. And sitting in Mallorca at 3 in the morning, wide awake now, Rafael Nadal was absorbing all of it. He had spent 7 years training Alex at his academy. He had watched her develop from a promising junior into a genuine force. But even he admitted he had never seen anything like this. A tournament's financial survival depending on a single player who wasn't even in the draw. He called it unprecedented. He was right. Now here's the part that makes this whole story even more layered, because it isn't just about ticket sales and sponsor contracts. The reason Alex moves numbers the way she does isn't marketing. It isn't a manufactured fan base. It's something deeper and more personal than that. The Filipino diaspora is one of the largest in the world. Millions of Filipinos live and work abroad, spread across every continent, many of them in countries that host major tennis events. And for that community, Alex isn't just an athlete they like to watch. She represents something they feel. She is a girl from Manila who grew up in a country where tennis has never produced a world-class player, where the resources and infrastructure and pathways simply weren't there. And she found a way anyway. She climbed. She competed. She stood on the biggest courts in the world, and she won. When she walks out onto a tennis court, it isn't just her fans cheering. It's an entire community watching one of their own prove that the doors that were always closed are, in fact, open. That's why the jerseys sell out in hours. That's why fans book flights to Austria. That's why a tournament that has been running since 1989 nearly fell apart because her name wasn't on the entry list. One referee who worked an event she played described the atmosphere like a Davis Cup tie, the kind of crowd intensity you expect from national team competition, not an individual tournament. That energy, that raw collective investment in one player's success translates directly into money. Ticket money, merchandise money, broadcast attention, social media reach. Dubai saw it with a 48% surge. Miami felt it when the ticketing system went down. Linz felt the opposite when she wasn't there. The decision the WTA ultimately made was the one that had to be made. They granted Alex a wild card into the Linz Open main draw. The official statement referenced extraordinary circumstances and acknowledged her significant contributions to the growth of women's tennis. Predictably, not everyone was happy. Critics argued that bending the rules for commercial reasons cheapens the competition and sends a bad message to players who grind through qualifying and build their ranking the traditional way. That's a fair concern, and it deserves to be taken seriously. But the other side of that argument is equally serious. Women's tennis has spent years trying to grow its global audience, trying to crack new markets, trying to find the kind of crossover appeal that makes a sport genuinely mainstream. Alex is doing all of that naturally without a campaign or a consultant or a strategy document. She's doing it by being exactly who she is. Ignoring that because of a ranking number feels less like upholding integrity and more like missing the point entirely. With the wild card in hand, Alex heads into the clay season carrying everything that comes with her story. The ranking drop is real. The clay surface is a genuine challenge. She'll be seated 7th at Linz behind players with far more experience on the slower surface. Names like Alexandrova, Ostapenko, Navarro, Raducanu. These are players who know how to grind on clay, how to work a point, how to adjust when the ball sits up and the court slows everything down. Her record on clay is modest. The conditions demand a different kind of patience than the hard courts where she's thrived. None of that is made up. The challenges are real, and she knows it. But here's what no ranking captures and no seeding reflects. She'll step onto that court in Linz in front of thousands of Filipino fans who flew to Austria specifically to watch her play. The noise in that arena will be something the tournament hasn't heard in years, maybe ever. And she already knows how to play in that pressure, how to draw energy from a crowd that is emotionally all in on every single point. She said it herself in a podcast conversation with Andy Roddick. She could win the whole thing or lose in the first round, and either way she'll find the win somewhere else. That's not bravado. That's someone who understands her own journey well enough to not let one result define it. The bigger question hanging over all of this isn't really about Linz. It's about what comes next, because this situation exposed something the sport can no longer pretend isn't there. The ranking system is built to measure performance, and it does that reasonably well. What it doesn't measure is cultural weight, fan connection, the ability to bring millions of new eyes to a sport. Alex has all three in abundance, and every time her ranking dips, tournaments feel it immediately in their bottom line. The WTA is going to have to figure out how to think about players like her, not to replace the ranking system, but to build something alongside it that acknowledges the full picture of what a player contributes. Because what happened in Linz wasn't a one-time anomaly. It was a preview. This is where the sport is headed, where one player's presence can mean the difference between a tournament thriving and a tournament fighting for survival. And the organizations that govern the game are going to keep facing versions of this conversation until they find a real answer. For now, Alex has her wild card. She has her clay season ahead of her. She has Linz and Stuttgart and Madrid and Rome, and eventually Roland Garros stretching out in front of her. Each one a new challenge on a surface that hasn't always been kind to her game. She has a ranking that doesn't tell the whole story of her value. And she has something no ranking ever could capture. A nation traveling with her, filling stadiums, making noise, reminding everyone in the sport that what she represents goes far beyond a number next to her name.